Welcome to the Star Wars Reporter podcast, the official podcast of StarWarsReporter.com. We are finishing out our prequels look back or review with Revenge of the Sith. Looking forward to this. As I just finished watching it again, and I just want to barf a whole bunch of opinions, and I know my co-hosts want to do the same. So let's have a look at the co-hosts. We first have Kyle Jen.
Hello.
And we have Trooper Todd. Checking himself out.
Anakin had crazy hair in that movie, so I went for the crazy hair look. I'm trying to be my best Anakin look.
It's, yeah, you've nailed it.
Thank you, man.
And we have Revenge of the Jason, who's here to talk about Revenge of the Sith.
There you go. There you go.
What's going on? Porgs, Ewoks, and Gungans.
the worst characters in the whole entire Star Wars universe.
Oh,
because the Wookiees, Wookiees are awesome, but no, Porgs, Gungans.
All my little Porgs out there. Yes.
I'm surprised you didn't whatever those salty wolves were too, because
salty wolves.
Different movie. Different movie.
But so the big finish with the prequels, Revenge of the Sith. So it's like battles and friendships tested, and the Sith are here, and cats and dogs living together. It's mass hysteria.
My personal favorite too.
Of the original trilogy. Sorry, the prequel trilogy.
Yes.
But by far, but it's
of all of them. This one is actually my favorite. This is, Empire is probably the one that I have watched the most. Like, that was the one that, obsessively as a child, it was play over and over and over again, and I love Empire, but this movie is my favorite Star Wars movie.
Well, I'll say this is my favorite of the prequels. That's where that's my extent of my favorite list goes for this.
Yeah, well, this one and Return of the Jedi are kind of right on the same. Which I also recommend that as a great 2-star. If you have time to do a mini marathon, I always say watch Revenge of the Sith and then go right to Return of the Jedi. It's a great little mini marathon. It's like the Palpatine Anakin marathon, and it's a good one.
You know what's funny about this one though, because it is my favorite. But if I'm cleaning my house or doing something and I just want to have a movie on, this isn't the one I pick at all. This is the one that I pick when I am in a place, I don't want to say in a place emotionally, but in a place where I can sit down and actually focus on the movie. I will put Attack of the Clones, I will put Phantom Menace, I will put on, New Hope, I will put on any of the other ones. When I'm cleaning my house, if I am baking something in the kitchen, if I am doing when I want Star Wars on, it's any other movie, but this is the one that I put on when I have the time to sit down and actually pay attention, because I love it so much that I don't like to have it on when I can't give it my attention. But
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's kind of got everything in it. Where in episode 1 and 2, we've each kind of picked out different things that we liked about it. And I think Lucas brings kind of all of these really mostly positive things from all the films together in episode 3, in my opinion. I think it's very strong from beginning to end, really.
I would definitely, here's what I'll say. Of all the Star Wars movies, the best starting point of all of them by far.
For sure.
It has them going, the two Jedi fighters going right into they're going across the big command ship, and they go around, and it's just chaos, right? It just, that whole sequence building up was tremendous, and just a visual spectacle is what it was, right? I remember in the theater seeing that for the first time and just being blown away. George Lucas always seems to up the game, and then when that scene happens, it was wow, it was amazing. Yeah. This is, I would say, by far the best intro scene of all the Star Wars movies combined, absolutely, for sure.
Well, the action's amazing too. Yeah, and the dynamic between the two of them is right on,
Loved
right?
it.
Right
Loved
out.
it.
I mean, it's hilarious right out of the bat, right? Obi-Wan and his nothing too fancy, the whole, and Anakin, I agree, that was a bad idea when he's trying to shoot, those kind of things. Like, it's just so fast, and their interactions with each other, like, immediately, how much they've grown since episode 2.
Faster, more intense.
Yeah, exactly. It gives you that. But yeah, so the action's great. It's fantastic. We're outside the ship. We're inside the ship. There's crazy explosions. There's fighting. There's running. There's all the things. But there's also that gives you that insight into their relationship and how they've grown.
Yeah, the
100%.
Jedi fighters are awesome, and how it's filmed, where it's like really close onto the cockpit or outside, and I mean that whole opening scene with the battles. It just reminded me of a good Star Wars battle scene, or like Babylon 5, all their big space battles, right? It just kind of reminded me of that. It was just awesome.
That's interesting. I'm a huge Babylon 5 fan. I'd never thought of that, but that's interesting. There are some parallels to B5.
Like, just a lot of details I did, and it's just like when it shows inside the spacecraft, and it has all the troopers loading those big cannons. They're firing it, and the shells come out, right? Like, just all those details you don't see when it's wide shot. All you see is blasters going back and forth, but here you see these people loading it. It's one shot load. It's just all that detail is so cool just to see it in action and see it from that perspective, which you never see in any of the movies, really, right? So it's pretty cool.
Right.
Yeah, I think it everything you guys are saying, absolutely, and it was like it let you know too that Lucas, he was aware already, some of the criticisms and some of the stuff we've even talked about, and you could tell right from the get-go that Revenge of the Sith, it upped its game and just film quality. And Todd, of course, you could speak more on that, but and what Jen, you said, like the interaction it had what the other two were missing right from the get-go, that kind of playful, like real world sarcasm, and I guess we have to, just like more real interaction. It had that incredible opening sequence. And another thing in the beginning, which to me really told you that, okay, we're not kidding around, this is the movie. He turns into Vader. The big scene for me when they encounter Dooku, which I loved all of that, and that fight was really intense, and then to see Obi-Wan get dispatched pretty quickly, and then you get Anakin is like, he's confident and he's in there. And man, the movie took a turn. And I remember I saw it with a million people, but Garrett, a buddy of mine who Jen knows, he went, whoa, when the execution actually happened.
Yeah.
Now we've seen limbs come off. We've even seen Jango Fett's head or whatever. But when Anakin went through with taking off, like Dooku, the look on his face, and when he actually went through with an execution, we were like, whoa, like that just took this movie into a place I've never seen Star Wars go before.
For me, what it was, like, it was just because Anakin was there. I shouldn't do it, but it's Palpatine when he goes, do it.
Voice,
not
do
it.
Yeah,
Do it.
that's the first time you see his Palpatine face.
Exactly, the voice came out, right?
Voice, like,
kill him. Kill him. It's a normal voice, and do it. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
It's like, that's what, and then it's just like right away, right? Like that's where just that manipulation, where it's just showing that the Anakin is really a puppet, right? Like he's been he's a puppet of Palpatine. Just it's slowly getting more and more control of him. It was just so intense.
He's somebody who's being told what to do. He doesn't know. He's still very much a child in a lot of ways. He's still very much somebody who's looking to the adult. He's still somebody who's very much looking for guidance. And Obi-Wan has been that for him. And Palpatine has been a trusted adult for him. And so in that moment, like, think about that. Like, when you're a child and your parent says something to you very harshly, they're still your parent, and you might be caught off guard by their tone, but you're still going to listen to them, things like that. Like, so it's, even if it's somebody like that kind of interaction of it's Palpatine, maybe he's not used to hearing Palpatine say something like that to him, but he's used to doing what Palpatine tells him to do. Right. I mean, it's his trusted friend who he's known since he was literally a tiny child. So, that in that kind of moment, he's just doing what he's always done. And that's, you know, it's just that kind of, you see him in that moment, like almost as a little boy again. Like, I think, to me anyway, you see him as that, in that moment, he wasn't sure what to do. So he did the thing he was being told to do. Like, it just
felt bad instantly.
Yeah,
and then instantly afterwards,
like,
I shouldn't have done that.
Because he's always looking, like you're saying, the Obi-Wan and Palpatine connection, right? He's being really mentally
it's like
torn
the angel
apart.
and the devil, right?
Yeah, exactly. He's being torn apart, and there's this thing, like, he does it because of anger, whatever. It's just
anger, whatever, being told what to do. Yeah, exactly.
And then it's like instant, like, you know, that you can see it, and he's like, wow, it's quite the journey. Just and what a way to start off, and again that's only like the halfway mark of the whole entire beginning of the movie. Right, that's only the half. Now they have to escape the ship, right?
Yeah,
it's like
landing half a ship. That's
so it's like, you know, it's just like the whole entire sequence of that, and just all it happening and unfolding, and you know, Dooku's gone right away. Like, where a lot of times in the Star Wars franchise, they get rid of a big bad guy early, and it's like kind of like, oh, it's too bad he's gone. Like, you know,
well, Grievous gets away.
Grievous, Grievous was we didn't know who Grievous was yet, right?
Watch Clone Wars.
Well, I know, but the Clone Wars came out after.
I know.
Revenge of the Sith, right? As a viewer, we didn't know. We have no attachment to Grievous, except for he's the general of the droid army. Okay, whatever, right? But the thing is, what I'm trying to say is, I wasn't upset that Dooku got off. It was like, it went, oh, like when we're flashback to Last Jedi when Snoke gets destroyed. You're like, it's kind of like, oh, what? It's over? Like, where this happened, it didn't feel like that. It was intense. It turned up the intensity to 11, right? It was very effective.
Notice like Dooku like looks at Palpatine too. Like there was that moment where he's like
what?
What?
But dude,
like,
cool.
Whoa. This was not what we had previously discussed.
Yeah, exactly. This was not on the whiteboard with the X's and O's. This wasn't part of the game.
Have you guys seen that internet meme theme where it's the Dooku like in costume, or Christopher Lee in costume, like holding up his lines, like with his glasses on, like his real glasses or whatever, like holding up like a line, like with next to like a costumer person or whatever, and it's like the lines underneath it, like it's like a meme, and it's like, do you see here how like you adding Anakin meant that you must subtract yourself? Like it's like her like showing him the math of like Sith, like 1 + 1 = 2. Like it's a really funny internet little meme. I'll have to send it to you guys. It's really cute.
This is rather unfortunate.
Yeah.
So it was so funny. It's one of those rare times you see, you know, the great Christopher Lee look like, what?
Yeah.
I just thought it was funny when he turns and looks. Someone had said it in the beginning too. The interaction between Anakin and Obi-Wan, I think, like maybe you said, Todd, maybe George Lucas said, some of the criticism, maybe their interaction seemed a little better. Where, you know, Obi-Wan and the like there was none of that. Yeah. No, I love their interaction in the elevator when they first get onto the ship, and Obi-Wan is. Obi-Wan is going to make fun of, or he's criticizing R2, and just that, like Anakin is much taller than Obi-Wan. I just like that interaction. Like, what? Like, are you making fun of? It's like making fun of someone's dog.
No short wired jokes or whatever. Or no cross wired jokes or something like that. He's trying.
I thought that was funny. I just thought it was so funny.
Much better than Clones for all of that. There was so much of that. And then when they first landed after that whole ordeal, and Obi-Wan and Anakin had that great little exchange about, no, you deserve your time with the politician.
Oh, yeah.
And then, you know, that was the, you know, thank you for saving you for the 10th time. It's like, not
nine.
It was 9.
All of that, I'm like, that's what Clones and like really what the whole prequels were really missing was exactly that. You know, it's just there was real, not all the even though the movie was the most dramatic and intense and all the stuff going on, they managed to get in those little moments, those little real relationship kind of moments, and that carried over. I thought Padme too. I noticed. I thought Anakin and Padme, Amidala were much better. Amidala didn't quite have as much in this movie. But there was just something more genuine about everyone's relationships in this one.
Well, I like the fact too. What I thought really worked well was I can criticize episode 1 for Jar Jar Binks being the comic relief and everything fell flat. Even then, Attack of the Clones of C-3PO, everything fell flat. Where this time they're using the personalities, the characters, and just the dialogue created that comic relief. But this time it didn't fall flat. Majority, I'd say, 90% of those little comic reliefs really stuck, and actually the audience received it well, and I think reacted the way they're supposed to. Finding it funny, not like, ugh, that's funny. Right? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the right kind of funny you want it to be. Not
well, like
natural.
when R2's speaker goes off, like when he's like, R2, where are you? And he's like, R2's in the little hangar bay and his speaker's like going up. You're like, that kind of humor was good. It landed well. It was funny, but it was,
Yeah. No, exactly.
It was reactive rather than forced.
Exactly. Bingo, right? It felt natural. It breathed properly. It wasn't a distraction to the storyline, the plot line. It kept the movie rolling, right? And that's where you can tell that maybe he had some support more executing his script, sort of thing. I thought, but it was much better than everything else that came before it.
They did actually. That's true. Lucas, I can't remember who it was. Maybe Jen, you would know, but Lucas did. They did work harder on the script. Like he did have more eyes go over it. Somebody else did like a whole go through, but they did put a lot more effort. And I remember them talking about that around the time Sith came out. So he really wanted to get just a better script, and they got it, and for sure.
And the whole crashing scene of that ship going down through the atmosphere was just looked flawless. Like I still think they're really early in the green screen, like the whole entire green screen sets. Right. Sometimes it just doesn't, now your eyes, because everything nowadays looks so good. Sometimes that just still doesn't look perfect yet. But again, right. They're paving the way for what's happening nowadays. But you again, give credit where credit's due. That whole ship scene of it coming down, crashing, everything about it is just gorgeous, right? Again, doesn't feel like a distraction. It's moving the story along. It feels so intense. It's not just sometimes special effects are there and you're like, okay, it looks pretty, but it still adds a lot of intensity. It really achieved what it's trying to do.
And the interaction, I'll say, between like the dialogue between Padme and Anakin, and I think someone said this already, I didn't find myself fast forwarding through all of it like I did in Attack of the Clones, because there was a couple of things that I thought was funny. So when Anakin and Obi-Wan get back from saving Palpatine and they're all walking in and he's talking to Jimmy Smits, Organa in the hallway, and Padme's off to the side and he's like, oh, excuse me, and he's leaving, and Bail Organa is like 5 feet away, and Anakin, their secret relationship runs up and picks her up and spins her around, right? And they kiss. You could still see Jimmy Smits walking away. I'm like, what? Doing a little subtlety,
it's the biggest,
right?
Non-secret secret marriage.
And that's the one thing, right? For as much as Obi-Wan would criticize, Obi-Wan knew from movie 2, from Attack of the Clones on, that there was something going down.
That was what I was saying. If you watch I don't want to ruin anything for anybody, but the new Clone Wars episodes that came out, the Filoni Clone Wars episodes that came out recently.
Right.
It was, I'm going to ruin a little bit. It was sort of confirmed that Obi-Wan knew.
Oh, he had to have, right? Because he wasn't surprised.
A throwaway line in there. Yeah. That so there's a scene where Anakin is talking in secret to Padme, and he's got Rex or somebody guarding the door, so Obi-Wan can't get into where he is because he's trying to have time with his wife, kind of thing, on the hollow communicator thing, whatever, and it's not working, and Obi-Wan's trying to get in there to talk to him or whatever, and Anakin comes out or something, and Obi-Wan says, well, tell Padme I said hi. They totally they allude to the fact that it was absolutely not a secret. That
isn't he a nice wingman to have, right? Yeah. I'll help you break the rules, right?
Or something. There is a line in there or something like that basically they kind of, I don't remember exactly. I only watched that episode once, but there was like something that they wrote in there that basically Obi-Wan kind of was not.
Yeah.
He knew something was going on. He knew something.
Of course he would, right? They hang out all the time. But there was that other, the only cringy reaction or interaction between the two of them. That was just funny, whatever. But it was like Padme's off on this balcony of her apartment or whatever. She's combing her hair and Anakin's just watching her. And
that one scene is bad. Yeah.
I know. And I thought to myself, I could imagine. I'm just sitting there 10 feet away watching my wife comb her hair. She'd be like, what the hell are you doing? Get away from, slam the door on my face or whatever. Maybe it's because we've been married a long time. But
I was going to say, pregnant women are not that nice. Like, as a previously pregnant woman.
We'll take your word for it. In case my wife is watching.
Yeah.
Oh, no. She's totally
out of all of their scenes, that's the one that I'm like, ugh. Like, the rest of the scene, because the whole, because she turns so fast, like that's what makes that scene cringy. Because he's like, no, it's because I'm so in love with you, and she's like, well, love has blinded you. Like, it's like, oh, come on, like, no, that's not that's not what happened here.
See that I think the same thing with that scene, and I thought, I'm like, if he had actually delivered that line almost humorously, like you are so beautiful, like just kind of
cheeky.
Like
yeah.
He tried to do it like you are so beautiful. It's like no, dude, just you're so beautiful. Just chill with it. Like it's so that was delivery with that. Yeah.
When she goes to him and asks him to hold her and stuff like that, that moment is genuinely touching to me. Like that, it's a little silly, like the hold me like you did on Naboo. Like the dialogue is a little like, romance novel-y, I guess, whatever. But, like that, it does seem very genuine, like going and ask, that way she approaches him and asks to be held and stuff like that scene is really beautiful to me. But like that one with the balcony where she's combing her hair is the one that it's like, if they could have cut that one out or changed it just a little.
Clones-ish.
Yeah.
That's so true. And also too, Obi-Wan knowing in that movie, I mean, there's that scene where he has that dream of her dying. Well, they're in bed, so he spends the night. So are people over at the Jedi Temple going, hey, has anyone seen Anakin for the last 15 hours? Like he's not on any assignment. Well, I don't know. I guess he just slept outside in the street.
Well, that's the thing is Jedi aren't allowed to get married, but they're not allowed to form attachments, but they're not supposed to be celibate.
Apparently,
like they're not priestly. Like they can go.
Now, what's better? Now, okay, so this is weird, and I know the recent news.
They don't get attached.
That's the thing. So
do you have any death sticks?
Showing off their lightsabers?
Do you know what I can do?
Family friendly.
Because you want to come home with me? No. You want to come home with me? Yes. Okay.
You want to
they're really talking. There was an article that they're really talking about that, like Jedi sex, right? It's like no attachments, everything's just casual. It's like, so, wow. So Jedi really are douchebags, right? It's like, yeah. I totally gonna call you in the morning.
Except not. So that's the thing is, so like Jedi probably don't sleep at the temple. Like they probably do.
Canoodle? Don't they have work to do? No wonder the Sith took over. Like what? What's going on? They're too busy going, wow, I have all these powers. I'm so cool. And then picking up people. And it's like, instead of trying to find out where the Sith is, it's just like Yoda and Mace Windu doing all the work, apparently.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Hey, we talked about this before we went live. And watching the film for the first time, having this feeling for the first time after watching it like numerous times. I am Team Anakin. Everyone else failed him. And again, in brackets, I'll say, except for the killing of the younglings. I think that it was a long, no, I'm saying, except for that, I'm not going to make an excuse for it. But everything leading up to that was ginormous failure against Anakin. Like, my first question is, because we talked about this in the beginning, right? Like, Obi-Wan and Palpatine, right? The angel and the devil on the shoulder, right? And Anakin had this great relationship with Palpatine. And I'm thinking to myself, how did he have a great relationship with Palpatine growing up? Shouldn't he have been hanging out and learning from Obi-Wan all this time? Like, I can imagine when he's much older, they maybe have this friendship because Anakin's doing more and interacting. But it just seemed like, they had.
But
Like,
Palpatine
I think
always.
that Anakin needed more supervision. Apparently, he was hanging out with Palpatine a little too much.
But the thing is, here's from a kid, all Palpatine did was, inflate his ego. That's all he did. Show him how wonderful he is, right? So just even that alone, somebody just keeps praising you all the time, you're gonna look up to this person. Like this person knows what he's talking about because I am awesome, right? So that's how, whether they had a huge relationship when they're young, obviously, just I think just Palpatine just fed his ego because of course I was going to help get control of him later on, right?
We're going to watch.
When was this opportunity?
Great interest.
But when was the opportunity all the time, right? Like he's Jedi Temple training and doing stuff, and he's too young to
they
be
had a lot
interacting.
of, and that's too like the Clone War. I know it's the cartoon show. We're saying it's not the movies, but
right.
It's they showed all the time. There was a ton of interaction with Palpatine and the Jedi, and they had a lot of interaction. A lot of it, most of it, obviously was off screen. But Palpatine was there. He was there all the time. And you have to think, too, if Palpatine was capable of orchestrating all of that, which really all began even before the Phantom Menace, it's not too much of a stretch to think that he could have that much influence on the one kid who's having trouble with direction. I never thought that was like a problem. Like, you can picture, go ahead.
Say, remember, half the Jedi didn't even want to train Anakin. Remember, they rejected him. So, there also was that tension already within the Order. So he was already partially rejected. He only started getting training because Qui-Gon died. Yeah, that kind of thing. So he was already Palpatine was kind of already filled in that gap because he was already getting that rejection from the people who had to train him just because somebody died, Yeah.
Right. So I'm just trying to think. How did Obi-Wan? I don't know how Obi-Wan failed Anakin.
No,
I know the Jedi did many times, but
let him get attached to Padme and didn't, because that's the whole thing. There's that scene with Yoda and Anakin where they're having that conversation where he's like, "Tell me about your nightmares," and he's like, "If somebody's dying, you don't." That you celebrate that they became one with the Force. You allow yourself to let go. He's trying to tell him that it's okay that people die, that kind of thing. That's the natural, that's the Jedi response to that kind of situation, is that if you're having these visions and someone you love is going to die, that you have to prepare yourself to celebrate it, kind of thing. Yoda's trying to prepare him for that. And he's like, "Nah, I'm good, thanks." Immediately goes off and kind of thing. But if Obi-Wan had kind of emphasized that more, because he obviously sort of knew what was going on. He knew about the attachments. He knew about, some of those other things that were happening. And he just kind of was like, "It'll be fine. It'll be fine."
Right.
The Jedi Order used Obi-Wan too, though, I put Obi-Wan in a horribly difficult position to you're his friend, you're his mentor. You tell him that we want him to spy on Palpatine. So now you've got Obi-Wan, how the hell can I really get on him now? When I just pulled this on him. So to me, the Jedi Order, the Revenge of the Sith, just 100%. The Jedi Order totally botched all of this.
Oh, absolutely. Maybe because of the Yoda said in episode 2, it's they're overconfident. Maybe because how did the Sith Lord that's underneath their nose the whole entire time? It's just mind-boggling, right?
Really close to them.
Yeah,
I would say regarding Obi-Wan, I would have loved to have seen Obi-Wan maybe stand up for Anakin a little more. Not necessarily in front, putting everyone on the stop. Or on the spot, but even on the side after they've said, "Oh, Anakin, you go to your room. Anakin, you this, don't do you know what I mean?" That maybe he kind of went to Yoda or Mace and said, we're confusing him, because I mean, he knows that we're confusing him. We're telling him all these mixed messages.
Mm-hmm.
We're still fearing, like it is obvious that there's this fear and resentment still, like his whole life up until now. This is our failures as the Jedi, right? Like we're always telling people to, to let go of this and let go of that. But yet we've held all his life this prejudice against him. And I mean, I just wish I would have seen Obi-Wan say, no, I'm not going to ask him to do that. What are we doing here? This is the Jedi Order. Like Obi-Wan seemed to be following too much and going,
that's what Obi-Wan did,
sorry,
right?
dude.
Qui-Gon was the rebel, right? And even he kept saying, but Matt, like Qui-Gon, you're not listening to the council. They said, he even kept pleading with Qui-Gon all the time that you're going against what the Jedi say. Like, so he was the one that followed the rules, right? I thought they established that really well. So it doesn't surprise me because, this is what the Jedi Council wants. Okay, I'm going to follow my orders, right? And so he, to a fault, right? And I think that's why, Obi-Wan has, a lot of issues. Like he says that he failed Darth Vader in episode 4, right? Like, because he obviously knows that he probably should have not followed orders, I'm guessing, right? But
well, but he would never have actually taken on Anakin if he truly, was all about following the Jedi Council, absolutely.
So it's more than one character caught in the middle, I guess, right? Like, like he didn't want to upset Qui-Gon, and he doesn't want to upset. So he's trying to, I guess he's trying to sit on the fence on every issue, right? And so, which didn't help Anakin at all.
Well, and he leaves too, right? He leaves to go take on Grievous after, telling Anakin, you've been put in this position. They put you on the council. They're not making you a master, and you have to report back to them all these things that your friend is doing because we don't trust your friend because we think he's trying to take you over, even though up until this point he hasn't done anything suspicious. But we think he's going to be suspicious. That like that's the thing is up until that point he hadn't done anything overtly wrong, right? Palpatine. It was just like the Jedi were like, so the Jedi did look bad to Anakin because it looked like the Jedi were trying to make a power grab. That's because Palpatine really he'd been really careful, and so Obi-Wan left. And I think that's when Obi-Wan says I have failed you, Anakin. I failed you. I think it's because he's talking about there is he left in that moment. He went to go take on Grievous because he was doing his job. He was doing the thing. And I think that's what he's talking about. I mean, to me anyway, that would make the most sense.
That's exactly it. I just remember watching that, and they had already established that they're not sure about Anakin. They're not sure about Palpatine, and they don't like this relationship that they have. And then they separate him from his mentor to go off to confront Grievous, and then send Anakin, who they're worried about, to go hang out with someone they don't trust.
Yeah,
I think that what would have really helped, because they had that really nice talk, Anakin and Obi-Wan, right before Obi-Wan left.
I know, it always makes me cry.
It was a great talk, but he should have went with them. They should have said, look, we're worried about what's going on with Anakin Palpatine. I want Anakin to be glued to you, Obi-Wan. Take him everywhere you go. The leaders of the temple will handle Palpatine. We're experienced with the politics. We can do this on our own. Because what else did they have to do? And I think that's the big, like you just said, the turning point where Palpatine had his final clutches and the final doubt of what the Jedi were doing.
But again, it's the whole feeding the lies, right? Feeding lies. And it's just like, it's just how it's been. If you look at the world, what's been happening last year, it's really apparent. Like you see what's happening in the world. It's really coming across like how movies, you have these bad guys doing this sort of stuff, sort of thing, just lie. Just how people get sucked in, right? This is how you can manipulate people so well. It's just amazing how again, I've talked about this many times about how Palpatine is manipulating every situation, and he tells people what they want to hear, and it gets to the point where how he twists it, right? The Jedi probably they're going to say they don't trust me, and we're what I'm saying, like, and then of course they have, like, oh my goodness me. Like
when Anakin walks into that room and sees Samuel L. Jackson have, or Mace Windu have Palpatine at the end of a lightsaber, Like, how does that look? Like, yeah, exactly.
And he's playing a lame duck. And he's playing a lame duck too, right? Oh no!
Yeah.
He's just totally.
And
like,
that's how does that look to somebody like Anakin? You know, exactly. And how would that look to somebody like Kit Fisto or Plo Koon? Like, how would that look to any other Jedi too? Like, you know, walking into that situation, you'd be like, you better have a good explanation for this, Mace Windu. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't, because that up until that point, you wouldn't know. And then they were like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and so anybody, and Anakin is already unhinged at this point. He's already been separated from his mentor. He's already, you know, feeling like he's going to lose his wife. He's already feeling like he's, you know, he's have all these other things. And like, it's just.
Well, he doesn't know who to trust, right?
Palpatine's the only one he does have, like Todd, you said, like that trust, because Palpatine's been, you know, talking him up.
The ego all the time, right?
He's the only one who's like, Anakin, you're pretty awesome, you know?
Even though Palpatine's been lying to him the whole entire time, he doesn't know the difference.
He doesn't.
Like he's brainwashed.
And I think up until the moment Palpatine says, I can save the one you love, I think up until that exact moment, he's still on Mace Windu's side. I think like up until that, like when he walks in there, he's still like, I'm a Jedi, I'm a Jedi, I'm a Jedi. And like, and that like
pushes it over the
and
edge.
He's
then
going
he's
back
like,
and forth
I need
and back
her.
and forth and back and forth. And then he's like, I have to make a decision and I choose her. Like that kind of thing. Like, cause it can go either way. And I think that's
he legitimizes it in his mind because he loves her, he needs her, and he's like, well, Palpatine is going to teach me how to save her.
Yeah.
And I can't have her die. That's the bottom line beyond even the Force and
everything.
It's Padme dying is the number one thing right now.
But that's
that
the thing.
Guy can teach me to save her, and it's got to go to Palpatine. I'm with you, dude. You're my guy anyway.
But at that point, he's in his brain. Both sides are bad. You know what I mean? Like at that point, when he walks in at that moment, the Jedi are just as bad. The Jedi tried to take over.
Her.
Like, and so it's like it goes either way, and he picks that side because that's the side that can pick his wife, you know, save his wife, and that's why he kills all the Separatists and he kills all the Jedi. Is because it, you know, it's. So anyway, that's my.
I'm enjoying this deep dive because you're getting 4 different perspectives on this one movie, right? And I'm really enjoying this conversation so much because I'm learning lots and just how everybody's breaking down what they saw, right? And it's a big pivotal moment. Like it's just again, it's so intense, and then of course, then he just fully commits to whatever he says to do, no matter how bad of a task it is. He's fully engaged into it, which just instantly turns him. It's almost like he's insane, isn't it?
He does. Like, he definitely something snaps. Like
his eyes start going like he's gone, right? And but again, I still believe that when he went and slaughtered all the younglings, is because he thinks the Jedi is trying to take over. Like like it's just like it's like.
Do you know what I noticed for the first time too? Is when he is sent to kill the Separatists. Which was kind of funny. He goes in the room and they're like, "Oh, it's nice to meet you, Lord Vader," and he starts closing all the doors. But when it shows him, when it leaves and it comes back and it shows him killing everyone, and there's this one scene where he has his cloak up and he's running and he's kind of sliding, killing someone, and it's the first time I've seen him going. He's yelling like he's like like he's like
mad,
angry. He's killing these innocent people technically.
Wow.
And it's almost like he's forcing himself, like, that's what I kind of took from it. I could be wrong. I should go watch it again. But it almost seemed like he's doing what he has to do, but he's not enjoying it, maybe.
Well,
he's working himself up into
I was going
it.
to, I could see that, but in the scene right after when Padme shows up, he's jazzed. Because he's like, I've become super powerful.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't care about the Empire. This is my Empire. I don't care about the Empire. This is my Empire.
Your new Empire.
So I think that it might not be that he's working himself up to kill innocent people. I think that he's completely lost his mind.
Lost it.
And I think that he's now starting to feed his rage and feed that. That untapped part of the rage that Jedi don't use, that untapped part of emotion that he's finally using that now that he's Sith, so I think that's you're seeing that for the first time, and coming off of that is what he's talking to Padme, you know, and Obi-Wan about, because he's just now realized for the first time that when he fights like that he's, you know, it's completely different.
It's a self-denial thing.
Yeah.
It's self-denial. I mean, think of any criminal who goes into a bank or whatever. Some people have no conscience. Some people do. I would think most people underneath you're like, screw this, I'm doing it. You talk yourself. It's a self-denial, and you do it. There's a part of you that knows this is wrong. Some people would argue that every person has that in themselves, that you're doing wrong. But you can use self-denial, and he's definitely doing that. He's gone over the edge. When he hacked off Mace's arm, he went over the edge, and now, you know, and there was a little bit when he first, you are Darth Vader, you know, and he's still almost boiling with it. But from that point on, a lot of it is he's using his own anger and the hatred and everything, and he's using it as an excuse to himself. He may not even like look at it like that, but
there's a line.
Inner conflict too, right? Sorry, Jen. Like inner conflict, because like everybody keeps saying, like Padme saying, you know, dying bad, like, you know, there's still good in him, right? So he's probably fighting with the inner good inside of him too, right? And just raging about that. Sorry, Jen.
No, I was going to say, I think there's a line, and I think it's the beginning of this one. It's Dooku says it. I think it's in this one, or it's either in Attack of the Clones, but the much rage I sense in you, Anakin, or whatever, but you don't use it, or whatever. Like that whole thing, like the...
Oh, right.
Yeah, that's in Sith in the beginning.
Is it in this one? Okay, so yeah, they make a point of saying that Anakin has like a deep well of rage, but he keeps it suppressed.
Check, yeah.
So that's the whole thing, I think, is what they're definitely making a point of, like that.
And the rage probably makes them stronger too, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think that's supposed to be the point, is why, but it also makes him unhinged, which is how Obi-Wan is actually able to defeat him. Because isn't that the way? Isn't that the tale as old as time, right? Is the super powerful also becomes the super unhinged? Isn't that and that's always their undoing? That's the
right.
Tortoise and the hare.
Well, let's talk about the fight. Let's talk about the big finale, the big fight between brother and brother, right? Anakin and Obi-Wan. I think I've said this before. I mean, it's a great scene, and there's one thing though I wish, and it bugs me in this movie, is their whole battle where they're like bouncing across lava and jumping around, and I wish. I've said this before, and I actually seen it on The Mandalorian. What I wished it would have been like, right? Like this Mandalorian,
like East style, like a old like
the old samurai. They meet,
and
I just wish that the fight took place in maybe 2 or 3 rooms, because instead of jumping around lava and stuff, because they would have had more opportunity to talk, because I think that's what was missing in their fight, right? There's no way that, especially if they, you know, tied up lightsabers and parted, they would still be fighting. Like, you know, maybe Obi-Wan was trying to pull him back. Maybe. Right.
If Anakin was a Dooku. I mean, if Anakin was a Dooku, if it was Obi-Wan and Dooku, sure, it could have been, the fight could have gone that way, I think.
They would have.
But I think because Anakin was mad, it had to be lava. And point of fact, I would just say, like, when I remember exactly where I was when I found out that the final battle was going to take place on a lava planet. And I remember I called my dad because I was so excited. And I was like, Dad, it's going to be a lava planet. And I just remember being so jazzed, like just thinking like, I remember, because that was back like before, like you couldn't just go to the internet and get a trailer, you know, like it wasn't like, you had to like catch a trailer on TV.
Right. Yeah. That was part of the lore going all the way back.
Yeah.
You know, that's why like Vader was disfigured in lava. He fell into lava.
Yeah.
That's back into the 70s, like the late 70s with that. That goes all the way back.
I might have called you too back then. I don't know.
we probably did speak. I was elated, though, similarly, though, that okay, he's actually going to do that. He's actually going to do that. Because that's how Vader, you know, but those stories actually go way, 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 way back. Like,
so I do remember that was the most I had been excited for a fight scene, I think, in my entire life. Like, I just remember hearing about that and just being so excited that I actually had to call one of my parents.
I'm with Steve here. I love the lava planet. I love all that stuff. I love the where they're fighting in the control room. I love when they went out to the bridge sort of thing and it melt. I love riding on the little skiff and he's on the little robot's head was stupid. That's the excessive part, unfortunately.
I know.
That's a
I know the bit where he's like falling off the edge. Yeah.
And how is he steering the robot? How is he steering the robot? Why would the robot just take off? Come on, it makes no sense. Again,
it's like a skateboard.
Yeah, sure, it's a skateboard. Yeah, see, this is the problem I have. Again, I love Star Wars. I'm a big, huge fan, but doing stuff for no reason that makes no sense drives me nuts. Like episode 1 is full of stuff that happened for no reason. Second one is much, much better, except for the robot droids making things. And then this was the part where it's ridiculous because they could have done anything. Have the things falling down, could have fought, like you're saying, fight on the side of lava, right? With the lava flowing, not a problem. Just that was terrible.
I totally agree with that, actually. And I love it all overall, but I do agree, like, when they're bouncing on those things, I'm like,
I know the scene you're talking about.
It's almost like a timeout, actually. And just Steve, what you said, I agree 100% because when they did slow down, then at the end with the high ground and they had that great freaking epic exchange when they weren't riding around on the droids over the lava. But it could have been, you could have just taken that out and had them on the side of the lava or on a rocky outcropping, and you would have been fine. Like I agree with that.
Even on when the bridge fell and they're on the lava going court, like they could have done all that. Like when they're holding on, falling over, they could have exchanged that dialogue or something. You know, like just something besides being on this robot and. Yeah.
I did like the hand to hand, like when they were in this one like boardroom of some sort or whatever.
Control room, yeah.
And they both lost their lightsabers, and they're actually like fighting with their hands. I thought that was awesome. Yeah.
And
I mean,
Anakin's
down, and they're like trying to. It was so good because again, any knockdown fight. Yeah, it's like someone's going to lose their weapon, and then it's like it's game on with like punch. I wish there was more of that. Maybe they were like, kung fu throwing people and stuff like that. That'd be so cool. But
I love everything about that scene. All the moves, all the everything. It's just
right.
You want something big, right? Like you want something big. You have these two amazing Jedis coming. This is the end of the relationship. You want something epic, and I think they really did a good job with how epic it was. Like that scene when they're going across the bridge, they're fighting, the lava's exploding behind them. It's an iconic image, right? Like when you see that, everybody knows what that scene is. You show one frame of it, everybody knows what's happening, right? It's very iconic. I love where it happened. I love how it happened. I just wish they can he just went a little more simple instead of trying to be overzealous in that scene.
I just thought of one thing. This is like slightly off that. Because I had to mention this because when I watched this movie, there's a million things. This podcast could be 3 hours, 10 hours long. But one thing I was like, oh my God, I have to bring this up. And it's kind of going right back. It's going in between the duel and the whole Palpatine and Mace and all that. One thing that was awesome, and I think Steve, you'll appreciate this, just talking about like defending Anakin in this movie. One thing that was brilliant and kind of subtle when Anakin's kneeling before Palpatine, and I love that too. Palpatine pulls almost like out of thin air, like, you are Darth Vader. Notice, and Todd, you touched on this a little, like just how Anakin's demeanor, and he just kind of changes. His vocal delivery matches Darth Vader. He's like, yes, my master. He goes into, think of Darth Vader in The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. When he speaks to Palpatine, he's like, yes, my master. There's like that pause. He does it exactly right after he turns into Darth Vader. And for the rest of the movie, most of his line delivery changes to where there's kind of like dramatic Darth Vader-ish pauses. When he's excited with the accusations with Padme and Obi-Wan, he's a little more, but a lot of his delivery, he totally mimicked that Darth Vader kind of
James
take
Earl
a little
Jones
pause.
type of-
Yes.
Yeah. Mhm.
I never really picked up on that, Jason, but you're right.
Yeah.
Like his whole entire tone of his voice all totally changed.
He was like, "Oh," his voice kind of dropped. He was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
"Yes,
no,
my master."
I think you're right. And we didn't really discuss that whole entire confrontation with Padme and when Obi-Wan came out, right? Like that was pretty intense. Like, he was mad. he was very, very mad.
He was force choking his pregnant wife.
And this shows how far he was gone, how he couldn't trust anybody, and he was so confused and so lost. Like he was lost. His mind was gone. Like he couldn't think straight. Anger took over everything, right? You're talking about how it leads to the dark side. Like he was gone. He was not rational. And even when people he loves Padme, he loves Obi-Wan, and he wouldn't listen to anyone. Like he was so far gone.
Well, and imagine doing all of the things that you did to save somebody, and then she tells you, "I don't want you anymore," kind of thing. Like that's
and
weird.
You brought this guy you brought him to kill me too.
Yeah, exactly. Like that is a weird. Like somebody like Anakin who was already in this place. Like,
right.
He doesn't have the emotional bandwidth to deal with something like that. You know what I mean? He doesn't have. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm trying to.
No, it's a good analogy. That's really good. It's true. That's really good.
He doesn't have, he doesn't have that available to him to deal with. And so that's kind of, you know what I mean? That's why I think of, us as people in general, how we handle situations, and things like that, because I love Anakin. And so I try to think of like relatable things like that. And, you do things for people and then they turn around or like, yeah, no thanks or something. You know what I mean? Like if you've been hurt by somebody, that is kind of a little bit of a relatable thing, not on that scale. Like you don't go murder a preschool and then like don't do that. But you know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of that.
Is it a hard no, Jen?
Very hard no. But I'm just saying, like, you know what I mean? Like that somebody coming back to you after you've done all this and then they're like, no, absolutely not. Like, I do not want you anymore. Like, all of this is terrible. I'm going away from you. Like, he just does not know how to react. And
especially because, as everybody's pointed out, he did this. All of this really, number one, was for her.
Yeah.
Ultimately, because when he took Mace out, it was because Mace was going to take out his only way of saving her life.
Yep.
Correct.
And so he wasn't thinking, I want to hurt her. He was thinking, this isn't how it's supposed to happen. This isn't what's supposed to do. You're doing it wrong, basically, was what he was thinking. Like, you need to stop. Like, that was, kind of his brain there. Like, it was like, this isn't how it's supposed to happen.
He's fallen so far down the rabbit hole. He's a poster child for mental illness, right? Like he was gone. He was gone.
I keep thinking that there's two things that could have maybe changed his future, right? Number one, we've already talked about was if he would have been, stayed with Obi-Wan and went everywhere that Obi-Wan was, he wouldn't have been left alone in this position with Palpatine. Number two, when Padme said to him, like, this is before Mustafar and everything, let's just leave. Let's just go away and raise our child, because they only thought it was one. Could you imagine? Like, I mean, the story would have been way, way different, obviously, leading to the other. But could you imagine if he's like, yeah, you know what? I'm so upset with the Jedi. Screw the Jedi. Let's just go raise our child. Bye. He's gone to Naboo or wherever. Maybe that would have saved his destiny, right? Like, if he was so upset with the Jedi, then leave the Jedi, like what Ahsoka did, right? Or stayed with his mentor and not be left alone with someone no one trusted. So
I think so. Okay, so here's a thought. So how it's been established in like the sequels and stuff like that Sith or Jedi or whatever can manipulate dreams or can manipulate thoughts, sort of things and stuff like that. Do you think, and I don't know if this is canon, I don't know if this has been established, that Palpatine would have been manipulating his dreams to put those ones there about or to amplify the ones about Padme dying in his dreams or anything like that?
Yeah,
you think so?
definitely.
So that if he went away, he couldn't have been at peace. You know what I mean? That kind of thing, because he would have been obsessed with the idea of her dying in childbirth, or he would have, because I think that would have been Palpatine's like sure thing. That would have been his way to make sure that Anakin never left him or never,
Was the seed already planted? Did Palpatine already plant the seed about trying to bring people back from the dead before that conversation with Padme? So I was making stuff at that point in time. So I can't remember what happened first. Yeah, okay, yeah. So the seed was planted, so he couldn't leave because because Anakin obviously fully believed, because he had dreams about his mom dying. She did. I think he was totally convinced that no matter what, unless I did figured something out, Padme was going to die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and Jen actually strengthens your argument with that too.
Yeah.
Maybe in an offhand way when they have that great the conversation Todd you just referred to in the opera house.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Palpatine talks about, subtly about I'm blanking out on Darth such and such taking out his master in his sleep too. Plagueis, of course, Plagueis. So there's that mention, there's kind of that mention though that kind of ties to the sleep thing, as if, all right, Palpatine's aware he's sleeping now. You could tie that into the dream thing, maybe maybe it's a little bit of a stretch, but it's there.
But I don't know if that's been established anywhere or something, but it's been, because Snoke says something about like, I put those thoughts there. Like those kind of things, like what Snoke talks about, how like he's the one who puts those thoughts of Rey and whatever and Ben's into each other's heads or something like that, that he's the one that brought them together, whatever, so I just wonder, if that's what he did to Anakin to make sure that he couldn't just go to Naboo and live happily ever after.
Somebody's liking our stream.
Yeah, I was going to put that on the screen. And I thought maybe not. Yeah. Thanks,
somebody says we're the best on this topic, apparently.
He says this is a pretty snazzy stream on this stuff. But I'm not going to pop that across the screen.
Yes.
I'm not going to pop that. Yeah, but it perfectly said.
I concur.
Now
thank you, my man.
I talk about so Anakin and Obi-Wan are fighting. It comes down to that famous line. Don't do it.
I got Anakin.
High ground.
I have the high ground.
So, and then we were talking about this before we went live. Is like, so what was all this? Is it like some kind of move or, and our thoughts on that was, it was just kind of a message that George Lucas, I think Jason, you were saying this. It was just, maybe it wasn't like anyone who has the high ground wins, but I kind of generally thought that the high ground, like in battle, everyone was always trying to take mountains or hill, right? So I don't know. I
thought it was like a metaphor for both, though, like from a strategic, physical standpoint, but just as much, think of the phrase, I have exactly what he said. I have the high ground. That's exactly what somebody says when they're kind of saying like the moral high ground on you. So the fight, and how Lucas is, the fight, and as we've spoken, there's other battles and everything, the fights are showing you with, not just physically fighting what's going on, but there's drama behind it. So I think, totally him saying, and I always thought that, like, I have the high ground. I'm like, well, he's got the moral high ground as much as anything. And maybe proof that although Anakin was shown to be a superior fighter, like when they both faced off with Dooku or whatever, in this instance, though, Anakin is not right, and Obi-Wan got the better of him. And thus,
we were talking about this before we went live, and I remember when I first saw it in the theaters, I didn't like it. I thought it was just too easy, a cop-out. And then I said again today before we went live. And then Jen, I thought you really explained it well to me. Like Jason, I think it's a great point, but Jen, I thought you really explained it well, where I said, okay, well, I didn't look at it like that, but it makes total sense, which maybe you say it again so that other people can get the concept too. So
I forgot what I said already.
You said it was Anakin's ego. Like he at that point in time, he said, I'm all powerful. It's my empire. It's my blah, blah. He thought no matter what Obi-Wan said, he was overconfident, right? Which
okay, that makes sense. That's kind of what I.
That's what you kind of
say.
said. And
I
what
just
Jason's
wasn't sure if
saying
I said something more really.
She's like, that's what it sounds like me.
But again, that's why I'm learning something now. Again, it's something I didn't like. Now I'm starting to go, okay, you know what? Maybe it's not as bad as not as bad, but it's just not as. I start to appreciate the scenario a lot more now than what I did earlier.
The other thing I always think of too is that they fought alongside a lot, right? You know what I mean? Like that's the thing is they fought alongside a lot. Obi-Wan didn't want to kill Anakin. Like he even has that scene with Yoda. He's like, don't send me. I can't do it. And so I think that's the whole thing is they get to that point in the fight and Anakin knows Obi-Wan's fighting style. Like, right? They've had years and years of this. And so he says to him, don't try it, Anakin. Like, because he knows that he knows that Anakin should recognize what he's going to do next. Like I think that that's part of what it is too, is that he's giving him that warning of
absolutely
what I should do here. And I think
he trained him
exactly. And I think that's part of what it is that loving warning of please don't make me do this. I think that's the warning that's coming, as a brother. But that Anakin is just so unhinged that he doesn't hear those words. He doesn't hear the loving warning that I don't want to do this to you. He just comes from that place of unhinged rage of I don't care. I'm so powerful and you can't stop me. Yeah. Basically, it doesn't matter. And I think that's that to me, that's what that scene means.
And as Jen and Jason, thank you very much. Now I want to take another quick look at that again, just to it's going to be digestible much better now, I think, because to me I was going like, well, Anakin's not stupid. Why doesn't he just jump to the side, then attack? Then they both are on the same level. I just couldn't see past that. But again, that's why he did it, because he's overconfident. Because he's overconfident, and that just makes much more sense now.
So and then I remember sorry, Jason, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say we all know what happens then, right? So Anakin goes for it. And Obi-Wan takes his 2 legs and an arm off. And you know what I mean? Then they have that. I always joke about this. He always has, there's that talk, right? Anakin's one arm trying to crawl out of him and he's crazy. And Obi-Wan's going on the speech like, you were the chosen one. I love you, and all this kind of stuff and blah, blah, blah. Okay, see you later. And is just going to leave him
back on him. Yeah,
I've never had a problem. It's my favorite part about the whole entire movie, and I had no problem with that happening.
But he didn't want to kill him. He should have put him out of his misery.
He didn't want to kill him. He didn't want to kill him.
I think he couldn't do it. I think he had to turn his back because he couldn't see it anymore. I think that's what happened in that moment, is he just couldn't look.
Maybe you think he should put him out of his misery instead of suffering. That's what you're saying.
And Jen, you said before, he told Yoda before, as Jen pointed out, he told Yoda, please don't send me to kill Anakin. I can't eat. So that was even foreshadowed. Right. Obi-Wan said, I can't do it.
Do you also think
my favorite part was this.
Terrible.
This is from the deleted scenes. I think George decided against this.
Is this when he says, this is why I hate you? I hate you.
I hate you.
But I hate you. You burn my marshmallows.
You're not sharing your marshmallows with me. I hate you.
No. Oh, so one more quick thing,
I've got the marshmallow.
One more quick thing, though. Also, why he didn't, I just thought of this, why he didn't kill him. A quick thought, because remember, he snuck on Padme's ship. Remember, he makes Padme think that he's going in his own ship, and then he sneaks in her little compartment. Do you think that part of why he doesn't kill Anakin is guilt, because he snuck aboard Padme's ship and tricked her into delivering him to there, and that's why he couldn't do the killing blow, because he had to go back and face Padme? I don't know, maybe that's part of why he couldn't finish him off.
It's another brick in the wall.
That kind of thing of that he had to walk back aboard that spaceship and fly home with her, and could he have looked her in the face if he had done that,
Right. Well, he never does answer.
He feels responsible too he's gonna, even though it's the Jedi Council as much.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan's that's his buddy. It's that's your guy. Yeah. That's my Padawan. He feels responsible for all this.
Yeah.
I think he feels like you let him down, right? Which comes up in episode 4,
totally.
right?
Totally.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he let him down. He failed him. wasn't there for him. He wasn't able to help him. He wasn't, anybody, like as a parent, your kids are upset and they're crying, and you, even though there's nothing you could do, you always feel terrible because you couldn't help them from feeling that pain or that,
right.
I can understand how he's feeling. It's pretty bad.
Right. So then, Palpatine comes and saves Anakin and brings him back to be turned into what's Darth Vader. And I kind of like the scene where it goes back and forth from like, them putting Anakin together.
The top-down camera angle of her on the table and him on the table.
Yeah.
And their heartbeats synced up,
that.
kind of thing. That's really cool. Yeah.
That was really nice. I mean, I thought that was interesting, like what is going on both sides of it. And it's kind of sad, right? She gives birth to her two children. She's really good naming quickly. And I'm sure she had. I
was like, whoa,
because she only thought she was having one child.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, oh, here's your second baby. And she's like, oh yeah, Leia.
They just came to her really easily.
It was my great aunt Leia, so I'm just gonna name her that.
She was ready.
She had like one name for a boy and one name for a girl.
Oh,
there you go.
Exactly.
There you go. Okay, there you go, Jen. See, Jen, she's brings up the IQ of the whole entire group. I think
she does. Now that's not very hard to do, right?
Because that's what I'm saying, right? Like,
but yeah. No, that is true. She's like, oh, good. I get to use both the names. So she got to the L's in the baby book.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, I like these two names.
Right here. I've had enough looking at this already.
That's right. It's this next scene. I've been waiting to use this ever since the last podcast when we ended off.
Is it time?
And Jason, is it time? So Lucas does this homage to Frankenstein monster when Anakin's finally put together as Darth Vader, and
I'm sorry, that's a reshoot. That whole scene's a reshoot. I don't know why it doesn't work, but it doesn't work. It didn't work when I first saw it. It doesn't work again. Although Jen, apparently we're off before we started. You had a different reaction this time.
I did. So this is something we were talking about before.
I love that scene, actually. Maybe not the no, but
I had a completely different reaction this time than I've ever had to that scene when I watched it this time, and I've seen the scene a bunch of times. So this time I was watching it and I was sitting there, and Ian McDiarmid walks up, and I was thinking, man, it is so cool that Ian McDiarmid was so young when they filmed the original trilogy, or 2 and 3, because he wasn't, originally in the first one, that he was so young that like he was around for these movies, and that he could be actually in this role, and it's so cool to see him in the robe and hear his voice. And then like James Earl Jones' voice like comes through the mask, and he looks at Ian McDiarmid, and you hear the two of them, and when he rips his arms free, like I don't know, I teared up when he yelled no. I was having this big nostalgia moment with the two voices, and they're standing next to each other, and like the stuff exploding in the room. I don't know. I was just funny, and I think it was. I don't know that it was the no, but I think it was just the hearing the two voices and having that warm, fuzzy nostalgia feeling or something like that. And just feeling like it's so cool that these actors were young enough when the original movies came out, that they were still available to do the prequels when they came out, and still about, that it kind of was really cool that, these were actors that didn't have to be recast or anything like that, especially Ian McDiarmid. That's what's so cool. Like that's somebody that because he's so awesome.
I think the dialogue to me just reminded me of the poor dialogue back on Naboo and Attack of the Clone Wars. I thought the dialogue just didn't work. I thought the whole interaction didn't work. I like the fact that he was smiling when Darth Vader was like, the Emperor was smiling, right? Because again, he's got his puppet going, right, sort of thing. But it just feels so flat. It felt flat the first time. Again, when the mask came on, I was like, and then the breathing happened. I was like,
the little puff, the first exhale.
Oh, it's so good. And then they speak. And I went, oh no! Just like you have James Earl Jones, and just the dialogue just not coming up. It just seemed, I don't know, it didn't bring up the intensity. It didn't bring up. It just you're expecting this big, huge. For me, this big, huge. Here we go. Like this is it. And then it's like. And then just the pathetic. I don't know.
Are you sure?
No. It's just I'm sorry, Jason. I know you said you liked it. I apologize, but it just
Again,
I just cannot find anything good about that.
I'll give another side, a quick another side to this whole scene though. Now, Anakin, he gets burned up and everything, and the mask coming down, all that, like you said, was killer. Like when they're actually putting them together and all that. Now, some people, I remember, like people I talked to when they first saw that, they thought that scene was awkward too, and Vader gets up and everything. And the thing about that though was, now think of this, Anakin is just coming around, like after all of that, the lava and all that. He's in this suit that is like a prison now. He's never been in it before. You've got artificial legs and arms, and like you can barely even move. And the first thing that and he's Darth Vader now, the helmet and everything. And like you said, you're kind of expecting, all right, let's take over the universe or, something. But what's the first thing the epic, powerful, transformed Darth Vader does? He says, "Where's Padme? Is she all right?"
Yeah.
In that moment, he's not yet the mechanical, to him, he's not yet the mechanical monstrosity who's confident in taking over the universe. He's coming around. Like the ambulance just got him after the horror, and he's waking up in the hospital like,
with no concept that he's lost all of his limbs. Yeah,
and
exactly.
He's calmed down a little bit now from the rage we're talking about. Because again, listen to his voice before the no. And what does he say? Very gently,
right?
Is Padme, is she all right? I was actually like, oh my God, I was struck by that.
Yeah.
Because the first thing that happened when he came back to consciousness practically, he was like, he was kind of just like, what happened? What happened? Where's my girlfriend? As if everything that happened, and I envisioned that as the fight with Obi-Wan and all of that was almost like a dream or whatever. And the no is like sort of awkward. But to me, it was everything settled in like, oh my God.
He's realizing it wasn't.
Wait a minute. Yeah. Obi-Wan and Padme, and I'm all, oh my God. And now it's really too late. To me, that no signified the final nail in the coffin. I am Darth Vader. I've gone too far. Padme's gone. Obi-Wan and I are done. I'm more machine than man now. So I really thought that was intense. The no to hear it is, it is a little, it is kind of awkward. But the rest of that scene I thought was extraordinarily powerful. It's actually one of my favorite scenes in Star Wars.
See, again, I think the way it happened, the ramifications of all this stuff is good. To me, it's just the execution. I felt nothing. I still feel nothing. And it's not because it's how it was said and the execution of the filming and pulling it off. I the first time I felt nothing, and I cry at everything, guys. I cry when Yoda dies. I cry when they're having interaction. I hate you. I was getting emotional, or even when Obi-Wan comes off the ship and they're yelling at each other and in my empire, it's like, whoa, I'm all buying in. I'm getting that tingling feeling in my arm. I'm getting it right now. I'm talking about it. But there's nothing. It's like watching Tom Cruise's Oblivion, which is a terrible movie. I feel nothing. And that's how I felt. I apologize. To me, it's just all execution. If I can't believe the scenario, like they have me, the mask on, I'm hooked. And I'm sorry, the execution, didn't care.
There's some, Jason, I don't know if you ever read him.
No, we all have our perspective.
Yeah. No, I know we're on time here, but real quick, the Darth Vader comics that came out a couple years ago, Jason, I don't know if you ever read them. The first couple, those moments that you're talking about there of God, they were so good. There was because Darth Vader, after he realizes that, he settles into his, you see him on the ship, and he's okay. I'm the apprentice. This is who I am. But he still secretly has those feelings for Padme and kind of things like that, but he hides them from the Emperor. And so the comics have these kind of little side adventure things and there's some just incredibly power in how it's done at comic book form. There's just this beautiful panel, and I think it's in maybe the second issue. Yeah, that's the word.
Right.
but where he's standing on the bridge of a Star Destroyer and somebody brings him word that his son lived, kind of thing, and he's standing there, and it's like a panel, and it's the back of him, and then in the next panel, the glass in front of him on the bridge cracks, and like he doesn't move. But it's just like him, but like somebody like tells him, like his little spy that he hired, that like that his son, the boy lived, or something, the boy lives, or something like that, because he doesn't know about Leia. Cool. But it's just like awesome. he's just completely doesn't move, but the glass just. And it's just such a cool. It's such a beautiful like the way it's done, and so like he goes to find Padme's grave and like different things that he does, but he has to hide it all from the Emperor. Like the Emperor can't know that he's still.
He can't be human. He
can't have Anakin. Anakin's dead. Right. You know, kind of thing. And so, but it's just really, it's lovingly done, you know, kind of thing. But they're so beautiful. And I haven't read them in years, and I should go back and read them again. But they're really good. But I remember that panel particularly because it was just
that's great stuff.
Yeah.
Well, as it comes to wrap up the movie, like, you know, when Darth Vader walks down and joins the Emperor at the window, and you know, and they kind of get together, and Grandma Tarkin has that kind of like, you know, like you know, say like he kind of like jealous. He looks kind of jealous, right? Because here comes Vader, you know, the favorite child, right? And kind of walks out. I really like that. I really like that scene, because that to me just showed that. That you know, that saved the no thing, because it again set up a good, nice feeling of intimidation, sort of thing, right? Like that's what I really like. So
I do like it.
And the connection to the original trilogy of the Death Star, the look, everything, and the TIE fighters going by and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I do. This was, I think watching it this time for me, I think for some reason I got the most out of it. Like my whole, and I know that Jen has probably argued this in the past about it wasn't all Anakin's fault. And I'm like, Anakin, it's him, and he killed younglings. But I mean, there's just so much in there that to the point where I just grabbed paper and I was taking notes. Like, they did this to Anakin, and if it wasn't for this would have happened. And I think I took a kind of a different perspective from it after like I don't know how many times I've watched this.
Yeah. So you defending Anakin, were you?
I'm defending Anakin.
Anakin.
Without Anakin turning, without Anakin turning, we'd never have Darth Vader, the biggest, the baddest villain of all times in all movies. Like, come on, until Thanos came along, there was nobody bigger than Darth Vader. There was nobody.
Hey,
well, Dreamy Steve, I had a whole hour and 18 minutes of Dreamy Steve. It's been a sweet little ride, I must say.
Well.
And we didn't even touch on how the Order 66, like that whole thing, how that.
Yes.
We didn't even talk about that, and about how that wasn't a choice by the clones. You know that.
I have tons of questions about the clones, and like
that
it's even
was
like
a phenomenal.
It should have been a two-parter. Steve.
That was a phenomenal storyline.
Podcast. Yeah, it is a phenomenal. Yes, in Clone Wars that we didn't even touch on that.
Because it's amazing the point of how they just turn. Like, I'm going like, what did they do to the clones afterwards? Like, didn't they just use them? Again, you guys said that the stormtroopers are not clones.
They're not.
They just got rid of them. Like, where did they get? Like,
after the death of, I think, gosh, this is gonna hurt my brain. I think after the death of Jango Fett, they couldn't breed more clones. Like there was like a thing, like the DNA deteriorated or whatever that they had, kind of thing. Yeah, basically they lost the recipe.
Okay.
And so they couldn't grow more. And so like there was only just the clones that were in existence. And after Order 66, most of the clones like couldn't come to terms with what they had done, you know, kind of thing. Like that was a very difficult thing for
they malfunction, I guess. Did they just malfunction afterwards, like mentally?
I don't know. I think they ended up serving. I don't know. Well,
because they like, you know.
That's a good point. It's out there. That information is out there somewhere. Can I like send it to you in an email?
Well, you don't have to. I just these are things that go through my mind, right? Like, you know, if stormtroopers aren't clones, like when Anakin, Darth Vader went and killed all the younglings, he had a whole massive troop of clone troopers with him, right? Mm-hmm. They seem to be following, you know, like buddies. It's just weird to get rid of all
they
these.
They would have died off in battles and things like that. It's and just replaced with stormtroopers.
That makes sense. Okay, that makes sense.
But yeah, because they were like highly elite kind of thing, so they would have been turned into like your elite stormtroopers or whatever, and then killed off and killed off. And they wouldn't have been replaced. Basically,
that's what I was thinking. They must have used these clone troopers as stormtroopers, and just over the time they just whittled away. Okay, that's what I thought of.
I think so. There might have been some sort of purge. They might have killed them because they didn't trust them after a certain point. I don't remember. I don't know if that's canon or something like that. If there was like a thing because they had guilt over what had happened.
Right.
I don't remember. There's something, it happens in, is it Rebels? Or is it what? Because it's Rebels where they meet Old Man Rex, right? Because Old Man Rex gives a recap of what happened to the clones after Order 66. And I don't remember that episode very well because I did not.
I don't remember. I just remember it's not it's not too happy a story.
Yeah, because it's like Rex is still okay. But then there's the wolf one who's like bananas. Like he did not do well. And like, so Rex has to like take care of him because he's like, oh, here we go. James is somewhere in Canada says the clone troopers against the next gen stormtroopers got retired after the Battlefront 2. It's expanded in Rebels. Hey, there you go. So yeah, there is information out there. I don't know it offhand, but they basically died out.
They accelerated aging too. So
yeah, that's true.
They probably age real fast. Yeah,
that's right.
What a great show, guys! This is awesome. This is a great conversation. Loved it.
Yeah, we will have to talk about Order 66.
Very passionate about
we will.
We should make that an episode after we go through all the movies. Talk about Order 66. It's just we're talking about Clone Wars. I'm in season 2. Love this Bane bounty hunter guy.
Oh, he's so fun, Cad Bane.
Yeah.
I'm really. So it's starting to pick up now because I'm really enjoying his exploits.
Cad Bane is so fun.
Yeah,
those characters that are on the fringe of the dark and light sides are so much fun.
Yeah.
that play off.
And Aura Singh, she's the one with the long fingers and the bald head and everything.
I haven't got there yet.
She's a part of that.
Who's in the Phantom Menace, by the way?
She is. She's with
which is actually the Phantom Menace Special Edition, which we never talked about.
We did not.
The version of Phantom Menace that is out that we watched really. That was like a special edition. It's like a couple more minutes. They show Aura Singh watching the pod race.
Yep, she's got a rifle, like tracking the pod race.
Right. There's a little
in
more
the pod racer. Yeah,
scenes of them in Coruscant. Anyway.
Yep. And also I was the episode 3. We didn't even talk about this. The Shakti's multiple in canon deaths. Like depending on which episode of episode 3 that you watch, Shakti either gets murdered by Grievous or gets murdered by clones. And there are multiple canonical deaths.
Right.
Like Shakti. But anyway, depending on which version you watch. But anyway,
at least one of them is in the extras.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
The
extras were
the one word. Grievous kills.
Yeah. In the ship. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I thought that was Ahsoka. Similar kind of hair. Shakti. I know that you guys taught me that.
Tarugas. Not all Tarugas are the same, Todd.
Sorry,
Todd.
Racist against Tarugas.
I didn't know.
We have to apologize to the audience.
Yeah, I know. Jeez. Cancel Todd.
For Todd's bigotry.
I'm surprised I'm still on. I'm surprised you guys hang up on me.
Please send all hate email to hateontod@gmail.org.net. So
I'm not good with names.
It's for Gruda. I think I said it wrong, actually.
ShaktiLives.com.
Yeah. For Gruda.
Yeah, well, we'll have to have a talk with Todd after the podcast.
We should. I like the idea of doing an episode all about Order 66. I think it'd be great.
I think that'd be good. I'll send you the Clone Wars episodes you need to watch then.
Well,
you'll have to skip ahead and watch like 2.
Okay.
Like out of order, and then we can talk about Order 66.
I'll definitely do that. Make sure that's done beforehand. Absolutely.
Okay.
We also didn't really talk much about Yoda versus the Emperor.
Oh yeah.
There's just so much to talk about. Like, there's so much. I didn't talk about.
This episode shouldn't have been episode 3. This should have been like Anakin, the Anakin special. That's like.
Well, I mean, it would we could do kind of like a follow-up episode on these certain
3.5.
things. like we were kind of delving into the psyche of Anakin and what Obi-Wan should have did, and we did miss Order 66 and the Palpatine Yoda fight because
Jeez.
I don't know, maybe this is something we'll let everyone know next week.
Let our watchers decide. Yeah, put a poll up.
Should we continue?
There's
or
also
should we move
really
on?
the opera, like the opera scene, and then the other conversation with in Palpatine's chambers when Anakin's first like, so you're the Sith Lord, when that first goes down too. There's some great lore there.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I didn't talk about how Obi-Wan's always stroking his beard, and when he delivered, killed the younglings. I really hate that part. I don't know, but when he grabbed the beard, I don't know why he's doing that. But anyway.
All right. Well, thanks guys for showing up. Thanks to everyone in the chat. The first comment we got that we didn't show was our first comment from Twitch, so that's working out from Twitch. But thanks to everyone and my stalker. Thanks to my stalker James, and
James.
Make sure that you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And of course, if you subscribe to the channel here, you'll be notified of all the podcasts and any other videos we are going to do. Plus, then we could all call ourselves we're YouTubers. That's not douchey, right?
No, I don't think so. I think it's terminology it's called.
Right. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. We will see you next time. We're going to decide if we're going to do a 3.5 or something else. But in the meantime, may the Force be with you.
No!